Hey everyone, Dr. Karen McGregor here. This is Notes in the Margins. On this channel, I take what I'm reading and experiencing and connect it to adult learners and higher education in general. My channel centers the adult learner, but the lessons that I am sharing will transfer to multiple sectors. So right now we are doing Get Unreasonable, and we're working through the book Unreasonable Hospitality, written by Will Guidara. The notes, the link to this will be in the description. So if you want to check this book out, I really recommend it, and we can kind of go from there. This is the third episode of the series. If you haven't seen the other ones, we might want to go back and start at the beginning. But in the last episode, we talked about service versus hospitality. Service equals when you get what you need. Hospitality is when you feel seen. And we talked about doing a hospitality audit where you look for moments at your institution that feel cold, confusing, or transactional. Today, we're going to make that real because these moments are everywhere. Now, as a bit of a shorthand and to be a little bit funny and make these incidents more bearable, I like to call these David Hasselhoffs, or for example, hey, I ran into David Hasselhoff today. If I say that to one of my friends, they'll know that something ground my gears and we can kind of talk about it. So let's get started. No disrespect to Mr. David Hasselhoff. I just think it's a way of lightening the mood when it comes to talking about situations that can sometimes be a pain in the butt. So, and it's a good shorthand, like I said. This episode is not about calling people out. This is not an airing of the grievances per se, but I do have a couple of stories to tell where people were kind, people were trying-ish. This is really more about the systems, how they're designed, how they communicate, and how it feels on the receiving end. More importantly, what happens when I stack these moments together and then thinking about that through the eyes of the student? Because often one friction point is annoying, but a series of them becomes exhausting. So, story number one, for those of you who don't know me well, in my real life, I'm quite active and I've had off and on hip pain for quite a while. So I was complaining about this to my general practitioner, and she ordered me an x-ray and she referred me to sports medicine. So at our hospital, x-rays, radiology, that's just a walk-in. So I just walked over there and did that. And by the end of the day, I had inconclusive results stating that I needed an MRI. I also had an appointment scheduled with the sports medicine department, but the soonest they could see me was 8 weeks out. So basically 2 months later, I'm in my sports medicine appointment, and they tell me that in order for, them to be able to tell for sure what's wrong with me, I need an MRI. But in order to do that, I need to do 6 to 10 appointments at PT, so physical therapy. So why this sucks is because I could have cleared the PT step during my 8 weeks of intervening time that I spent in pain. And so now 8 weeks later, I'm adding appointments and rearranging my life, which is something that I could have done before. It probably would have been a little bit cleaner, and then I could have been, sooner to my solution. Every step of this, I sort of got what I needed, but none of it really connected or was considerate of my reality. Now let's layer something on. In a second example, I got into a literal fender bender. Thankfully, no one was injured, just my Prius. And it was just a little bit of like a damage to the bumper. So I need to get some body work done. So I call the body shop and I ask them, do I need to do anything before I come in? Because this has been my first accident. So I was hoping for some guidance, and they said, nope, just come in. So when I get there, I pull my car around and I'm there, and I say to them, hi, I'm here for my appointment. And they say, what's your claim number? Now, I didn't have a claim number. So they're like, oh, you can just call your insurance agency. So I called my insurance agency and I'm starting my claim in the waiting room. Then the next phase is we kind of go into this. I get my claim number, we finish the appointment, and then I ask what the next steps are. I'm really new to this process. And they say, we'll order the bumper and then we'll call you when the parts are in. Okay. They do not call me. And so my husband's asking me kind of after the holidays, hey, have you heard from them? And I'm like, no, I'll call them on Monday. So I call them once I get back to work, and they don't have me in the system. They cannot find my claim. They have no record of me existing. Can I come back in? So I was like, well, no, but I sent them some pictures of my car because we took them while we were there. So every time I call in, it's like I start over. They don't know who I am. They don't have my claim. It's like it gets so bad that I put a reminder on my calendar to call them every Friday because, just to see kind of what the state was, call the body shop every Friday morning. Uh, I became, and it felt like I had become the project manager of my own repair. So, this is what we talk about when it comes to service versus hospitality. Both systems did their job, well, sort of, eventually. They delivered a service, but neither one anticipated my needs, reduced friction, or saw the full picture. This is what it looks like when service is present, but hospitality is missing. Now, to be fair, sometimes in these situations, the organizations kind of go into hospitality overdrive at this moment. And this is what happened at the dealership. They realized what was going on and they moved me up the loaner list and they gave me to borrow while my car was being serviced an electric Hummer, which objectively is amazing and a little hilarious compared to my little Prius that I typically drive. But it was a decent attempt at recovery. And you see this in the book too. When things went wrong at the restaurant, Will and the team would comp dessert, send out champagne, apologize profusely, and listen. This is important. These things matter. They're thoughtful, they're generous, but once things start to go wrong, by the time you're making it right, something has already gone wrong. So the damage is done, the experience has already been disrupted, and the frustration has already happened. They might be able to soften it, but you can't, there's no undo button for this. You can't undo it. So you can recover the moment, but you can't fully erase it. So I shared these stories because they're both great examples of what I call running into David Hasselhoff. But also they illustrate something deeper, something I talk about in my framework, in my own work. I think a lot about harmony, what it looks like when different parts of students' lives are working together, and what happens when they're not. So, in these moments, in my life, things were not in harmony. My health, my time, my responsibilities, and the systems I was navigating. None of it was aligned and none of it was working together. It wasn't just inconvenient, it was everything in my life pulling me in different directions. I was in pain. I was adding appointments. I was managing calls, and I was following up on things that should have already been in motion. And I was doing my job, living my life, driving a carpool in the electric Hummer. Okay, that part was fun. But the rest of it was like running into David Hasselhoff. So now imagine for a second I'm a student. I'm trying to keep up with coursework, attend seminars, meet deadlines. All of this is happening in the background. My hip hurts. I'm navigating systems that don't talk to each other. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to fall behind in my classes. So then I reach out for help and I get put on hold. And they say to me, your call is very important to us. Not you are very important to us. In higher education, it is our job not just to move students through our systems, it's to help them. It's to help create and maintain harmony between school, work, life, and everything else that they're carrying. The last thing our students need is for us to become another Hasselhoff moment. Now I want to circle back to the hospitality audit that I was encouraging you to do. This is what we're looking for. We're not just looking for sticky systems and processes that are unpleasant. We're looking for moments that throw students off, create confusion, and add invisible effort. Where are we unintentionally making students case manage their own experience? And one of the places that I recommend you look for these types of sticky, unpleasant moments would be in your social media. If students are going on social media to blow off steam about how things aren't working, those would be really great places to start to do a little bit more digging and figure out what's actually going on with those types of processes. So, in the next episode, we're going to flip this coin. I'm not going to leave you here in Negative Town where we're just talking about David Hasselhoffs. We're going to talk about some really bespoke services and really kind of go into what things look like when they're well done. But my margin question for you today is right now in your life, what is the biggest Hasselhoff moment and how is it making you feel? Feel free to share that in the comments, like and share, and subscribe to this for more content. Share this if you think that somebody you know might benefit from listening to this video. And I look forward to seeing you in the margins. Take care now.